What's going on YouTube? So Jeep of course has a really large lineup of SUVs. However, in recent years they've mostly focused on the upper end of their lineup. That's changing though now, as they are focusing on the lucrative compact crossover segment with this, the resurrected 2026 Jeep Cherokee. As one of Jeep's most well-known nameplates, it's fitting to apply the name to such a critical new SUV with a brand new powertrain for the brand. But is it a real threat to segment leaders like the CR-V and RAV4? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's kick things off under the hood. Now, just like the all-new RAV4, this Cherokee is moving to a hybrid exclusive powertrain. This is a new 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 2 electric motors and a small lithium-ion battery pack. Total system power is 210 horsepower. It has standard 4-wheel drive, and our combined fuel economy comes in at 37 mpg.
Now, the base price of the all-new Cherokee is $35,000 for 2026. And if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because there's a lot to look at with the all-new exterior as well as inside. So jumping into the exterior design, of course Jeep has a very signature look, and those elements are going to be present here with this new Cherokee, but we have also kind of a modern interpretation. They've made sure to make each model distinct from each other. So you'll notice up here with our grille, we have the 7-slot grille, as all Jeeps do, but it's going to be a little bit more of a narrow design, very wide, going all the way across the front end. It's traced in kind of a smoked chrome finish with black accenting all around it. You also have black Jeep logo up here at the top. And then our lower fascia here is going to be very tough looking. It's super boxy and squared off, mostly finished in black. Now overall, the vehicle itself is pretty tough looking, and that is going to continue with the headlights. We have a full LED headlight arrangement as standard equipment on all models. You also will notice the kind of squircle daytime running light and turn signal indicator is what Jeep calls this. This actually harkens back to the original Cherokee model. And then down below on your upper end examples, you'll also have LED fog lights. While I'm down here, I want to point out you have 8 inches of ground clearance. Moving on to the wheels, you've got a couple different designs you can choose from. You've got a standard 18-inch contrast alloy on most of your models. However, today we've got the fully loaded Overland trim, and that comes standard with this 20-inch contrast alloy. I really like this overall design. I also like the little Jeep there in the middle. It's a nice touch and a nice look. Now, as far as cladding is concerned, of course, you do have some around your wheel arches as well as the lower part of the body, but nothing too extreme. And then up here at our mirrors, we have a gloss black finish. These will come standard with heating and blind spot monitoring on all models. And then the Overland can option on auto dimming.
So at the side of this all-new Cherokee, this model has grown to be about 188 inches for this newest generation. And if you're comparing this against things like the all-new RAV4, that is quite large in comparison to those models. The Cherokee has always been kind of a tweener vehicle between the compact and the mid-size segments. But as you'll see throughout the packaging and the pricing of this model, you're mainly going to be cross-shopping this between models such as the Honda CR-V and Toyota RAV4. Now, as far as elements for this model, all of your window treatments are going to be blacked out. You have this blacked out portion right here, as well as some pretty substantial roof rails here at the top. One thing that I do like that you can option on to this Overland model is a black roof, and that comes along with a new and wider variety of colors for this model for 2026. Now, as we head around here to the rear, you see a lot of that continued boxy and rugged looks. The Jeep designers say they really tried to pay homage to the first gen of Cherokee as much as they could, and that includes this rear design. Now, as far as your specific elements, you're going to have a small spoiler up top and exposed rear wiper. Here in between the taillights, you have this nice gloss black portion that matches well with the Jeep branding. And then as far as your LED taillights, they are going to be fully LED for all of your components. You have your brake light and your turn signal indicator, your accenting, as well as your reverse light right there in the middle. Now, heading down to the bottom, you continue to have a variety of black branding, a matte black rear bumper with some slightly contrasting accents, And something that Jeep was happy to share with us is that the Cherokee continues to have one of the best tow ratings in the class at 3,500 pounds. Now, as far as safety is concerned, Jeep is including all of your active systems as standard equipment for this all-new Cherokee model. That also does include things like a level 2 hands-on driving assistant. But there are even more changes inside for this new modernized interior, so let's check that out. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. All right, now it's time to check out the cabin. First, here's our key fob. It's your typical Jeep key fob. You have a standard smart entry system, and then you have remote start on the Laredo and above. Now to get inside, this has the new Jeep electronic door handle that you might have saw on the Wagoneer S. You just reach behind there and pinch it to open up. And then let's check out the interior. Now, like I was saying, this competes in a very competitive segment that's also one of the more affordable segments. Yet, despite that, there are a lot of design characteristics that really come straight from that Wagoneer S model. But let's get into the seats first before we get into those details. So your lower two trims, the base and the Laredo, will come standard with a cloth seat. And then when you go to the Limited or the Overland, that's where you get the faux leather seat you see here today. The Overland actually gets some special stitching details as well with the perforation through the center section. I think these seats look quite nice. You can get them in black or this Arctic color, which is kind of a lighter gray. And overall, they feel pretty realistic and nice and soft. Now, the seat controls, we have 8 ways of power adjustment with 2-way lumbar support. The Overland also comes with memory seats, which you can see located up there on the door trim. But let's go ahead and climb inside. And now that I'm fully inside the interior, let's look around at the rest of the materials. So over here on the door trim, we have a leatherette with a stitching detail that will continue through there. Soft touch plastic along the top, and then a textured leather material through here with a stitching detail. As we move to the upper dashboard, we have more of that leatherette with a stitching detail. Through the center, kind of a textured trim, and then more leatherette down through here. Along the center tunnel, this is actually not padded, even though it kind of looks like it is. And then they chose to use that textured material instead of a piano black, which I think will be good for long-term durability. The shifter is made of real metal, so that feels pretty nice. And overall, I'd say the cabin quality is quite high for this segment of vehicle. But let's fire it up now with the push-button start, which is located right here. With it all fired up, let's jump straight into the gauge cluster as the first feature to address. We have a 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster. This is actually standard across the entire lineup. And you can, of course, change between several different views, which you can see include going to a full screen map. If I can cycle to that, yeah, there, that would be what that would look like when it actually loads in there. One thing I want to point out is that this does not have an available head-up display. That is something that a lot of the competition does have on their fully loaded examples, at least. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a all-new steering wheel design for the Jeep brand. It is very squared off and very thick feeling in the hand. I think I like it, though, overall. It's just a good kind of meaty feeling steering wheel that's very sturdy. Of course, it's manual tilt and telescoping. We also have steering wheel heating, and rain sensing wipers are standard. Now, let's dig into interior storage next. I'll open up our center console here. You'll see this is quite large. Certainly a deep console. It's going to be a little slanted, though, because of making room for the wireless phone charging pad. So we'll have to test this out on the donuts when we get back home to Kentucky. Today we're in California, so we don't have them with us. But I do look forward to seeing how that stacks up to some of the biggest competition like the CRV. Now in front of that you have your 2 cup holders, and then you have a really large center console area here where you could stick all types of things. There's no pass-through, but again, this is a super large space. Now let's take a look at the shifter. I already mentioned it's made of metal. Just twist over the D for drive. We do not have any paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And then we go into reverse. here is our available 360-degree camera system. So most models will just come with a regular camera. However, if you get the Overland and you choose the advanced technology group, that will give you the 360 camera. I will say the resolution on this is really nice looking. It's super sharp. You have several different views you can choose from as well. And just twist over to P for park. You also have an electronic parking brake with a brake hold system. Now, continuing our interior tour, the next place we come to are the climate controls. This is a standard dual zone automatic climate system. You have these little touch screen that gives you haptic feedback when you press on it, and it makes those adjustments up there. And you have additional functionalities in the climate menu. Speaking of additional functionalities, along both sides of the screen here, that's where you'll have controls for your heated seats and ventilated seats. So heated seats are on the Laredo and above, and then your ventilated seats, those are optional on the Overland in that advanced technology package. Now, as far as the screen itself, let's get into that. It's 12.3 inches. This is standard across all Cherokees, so it's a pretty good size for the segment. Jeep is using a high quality screen as well, so I have to say the resolution on board is quite impressive. Very deep blacks overall, thanks to local dimming. And as far as the software, it is Uconnect 5.0, so it's very similar to other Stellantis products and other Jeep products that you may have used in the past. You have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Let me go into that and show you what that looks like. I will say, just like other Stellantis products we've used, it does have some hiccups every now and then, that's for sure. So they haven't really changed the Uconnect 5 system in recent years. They could maybe use a little bit more empowered hardware to make this a little bit smoother, but overall you've got the features that most people are looking for. Now, of course, in the screen area, we have a physical volume knob. There's two different audio systems that you can get. We have the available Alpine audio. Let's give it a sample right now. Overall sound quality is quite good for the segment. It really fills up the cabin nicely. All right, let's move up to the top here. We've got an auto dimming mirror. We also have the digital camera rear view system. Again, that's optional on the Overland. We also have HomeLink remotes in the visor. And then finally here, I'll slide back the sunshade for our panoramic sunroof. This is standard on the Overland. It's also available on the limited trim. And the front panel opens up.
Now join me here in the rear seats of the all-new Cherokee to check out the increased space figures back here. As far as Jeep's actual measurements, we're seeing about 38.5 inches of legroom and 38.1 inches of headroom with the sunroof. Goes up to 40 when you don't have it. But overall, those figures are pretty competitive for this class. It's not going to be a leader within this segment, but overall, the space is pretty good. Now, I can also check out my realistic knee room behind Drew's 5'8" driving position. I'm 5'9", and I still have 7 inches of additional knee space, which is quite nice. And my feet can also slide up and underneath the seat pretty well. You have a pretty flat floor as well. And as far as these seats themselves, they're pretty cushy, pretty comfortable. Definitely not the least comfortable in this segment. And then I also do have a center armrest that folds down with 2 cup holders inside. You have a little insert you can take out if you want some more space. Additionally, these seats do have one way of reclining, but it is nice if you want a little bit of additional seat comfort. There are some more features to talk about as well. Back here you do have vents as well as USBs, and on this model a household outlet, which is quite nice. And optional on the Overland trim level are heated rear seats. These are 3 stages, and like I said, part of that advanced Pro Tech group on this model. Now checking out the door trim. You do have a little bit cheaper of materials. It's hard touch plastic here on the top, but you still have the leatherette throughout most of the center portion as well as in the armrest with the stitching detail, and you do have a good amount of bottle storage at the bottom. Now we continue to have space increases here in the cargo area, but first let's get inside that area. On the Overland only, you will have a hands-free power tailgate. It is optional on the Limited. I wish Jeep would have added that on more trims. I feel like that's a feature that most buyers want. But when you look into this increased cargo capacity, which is 30% larger than the previous generation Cherokee, you're looking at 33.6 cubic feet behind the second row, and that expands up to 68.6 cubic feet of space when all of the seats are folded down. Now, that is in line with some of its biggest rivals, including the all-new Toyota RAV4, but will again be behind segment leaders like the Honda CR-V. Speaking of, if you're looking to compare those with all of those compact SUV segment leaders, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. On there, we've gone through and ranked them in categories that matter most to you, the compact crossover buyer, including things such as cargo space, powertrain options, and more. So if you'd like to check out that useful tool, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, as far as other features back here, you do have an outlet here on the right side, but you do not have any handles to fold down the seats, and it's a little too far, so I will go up to the second row and do that myself. All right, as you can see, the seats fold 60-40 split, and you have a pretty flat load floor. But let me go ahead and get our length, width, and height measurements. This is a Car Confections review after all. As far as overall length, you're sitting at 75 inches. That is definitely an ode to this model being longer than most in the segment. Behind the second row, another strong showing of 37 inches overall. Now, I'm really curious to get this height figure here. So as far as your opening, it's only about 29 inches. Drew and I both noticed that you're staring right at the back of that cargo opening, and we don't feel tall very often, but this definitely made us feel pretty tall. Now, as far as your other measurements, you're sitting at about a pretty wide 45 inches for your opening width, and then for your load-in height, a little bit taller, about 32 inches. And if I lift up the load floor here, you do have a ton of extra space, although I am sad to say there is not a spare tire on this model. And finally, to close the cargo area, the buttons here on the left side, Drew and I have juked ourselves out at least 15 times already.
All right, so now I want to get into some more details about this powertrain because it is special. It is actually Stellantis' first North American regular hybrid, non-plug-in hybrid model for sale. And what this is made out of is a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It has 2 electric motors and a small lithium-ion battery pack, which is about 1 kilowatt hours, very similar to the competition. Now, all this together makes 210 horsepower and 230 pound-feet of torque. Now, of course, the important thing to remember about this is actually the only powertrain that will be offered on this Cherokee for the time being. Just like the RAV4, they are going to that hybrid exclusivity. It has a real 4-wheel drive system, which is standard across all of the trim levels. And then let's also talk about the fuel economy. Since all models have 4-wheel drive, all models will have the same rating of 39 city, 35 highway, 37 combined. Now, as far as how that compares to the competition, that is going to be lower than some of the main rivals. We've been mentioning, of course, the RAV4 a lot because that is the segment benchmark. And that one does get significantly better fuel economy, although it uses a rear E-axle to power the all-wheel drive system. This is going to give you a little bit more capability. Lastly here, Jeep says 0 to 60 should be about 8.3 seconds. Now, there's obviously a lot to this brand new hybrid system, and we can't wait to take this out on the road. But you're going to have to stay tuned to our channel for just a few more days because we wanted to show you guys this all-new Cherokee out here in the natural daylight with full specifications and details as soon as possible. But the driving impressions will be under embargo until the date you see down below. That's when we're going to be taking this out on the road to compare it to the RAV4 Hybrid, CR-V Hybrid, and many other rivals. We'll get things like our signature sound level reading and tell you all about this model. So make sure you come back at the date down below.
Now let's talk pricing for the new Cherokee. So you can see the entire lineup on the screen right now. You start at about $35,000, and then when you move up to this Overland model, which is the top trim, you'll be starting at $43,000. And then, of course, as far as the model we have today, we do have a few options, including that Pro Tech package. So all said and done, you'll be sitting at just a hair under $47,000 at the end of the day. So that is pretty in line with models in this segment, such as the all-new RAV4. It can get a little bit on the pricier end, especially if you start adding things in like the two-tone painted roof. Now, if you're curious as to where this Cherokee is made, it is made in Mexico. And if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. On there, you can get access to tools such as an invoice pricing information, which is great for dealership negotiation. You can also get access to things such as a monthly payment tool. If you're curious into checking that out, we would encourage you to check out the link in the video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. Let's start with resale value. After 5 years and 60,000 miles, this model will be worth about 53.6% of its original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 25.4% of its original MSRP. Now, those figures are on par with most in the overall industry average, but will be lower than the top mainstream brands such as Honda, Toyota, and Subaru.
Let's also talk about reliability. When we take into account the latest data for our CRI, Jeep is rated below the industry average compared to all vehicle brands.
Now, if you'd like to check out these tools as well as understand our methodology better, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making the right decisions when you're cross-shopping between different vehicle makes. Now, when it comes to Jeep's overall warranty, you're protected by a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty as well. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed this in-depth review of the all-new 2026 Jeep Cherokee. If you enjoyed getting to see all of the details on this model out in the full daylight, we would appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button down below. When you do that, that allows us to come out to beautiful California and check out all of the latest and greatest vehicles as early as possible. If you're already a fan and subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.